Lead the charge with Milwaukee. Performance, power, precision, no petrol hassles. Learn more at milwaukeetool.com.au. Milwaukee, nothing but heavy duty. Aces, I know I always talk about the RIXXs, but I got to offer you the discount again. In case you've forgotten or in case you're sleeping under a rock, we have a special discount code for everyone that listens to this podcast or watch the podcast. It's ACES. Head online to rixeyewear.com.au and use the discount code ACES and you'll get 20% off. That's right, 20% off, 1/5 at checkout and free express shipping. So head online, rixeyewear.com.au and check it out. All right, do we have a big show for you today? Let's get stuck into it. Welcome back to the podcast, Tommy Talks podcast. Today, as always, we have some big guests and it's finals footy. We know that the grand final would have just finished. So this man, everyone knows this man. Everyone knows he's won a few of them. And when it comes to celebrating, no one would celebrate any better than Jonathan Brown. So welcome to the podcast, big fella.
G'day, Tommy. It's a pleasure to be on, mate. And been watching for a while, just waiting for the invite.
Well, mate, finals footy. I got to save it for I think it'll be Mr. September, early October for this when this is released. But mate, when it comes to when it comes to finals footy, I thought I'd save the big dog for then because mate, when you win so many, like you must get the phone going bananas around this time of year.
Well, certainly if Brisbane's in the grand final, that's for sure. So I've been getting excited with the season they've had so far, and obviously a bit disappointed the last few years. Leading into grand final week, they couldn't get through because normally the phone would be ringing off the hook. But so this year, a little bit different, bit of expectation around the lines, which has been exciting.
What does give everyone an insight when the phone rings? What are they asking you to do around this type of week? Like how many lunches and that, and how many beers can you drink?
Well, that's the thing. You've got to try and organise a driver, don't you? Because everyone wants to have a beer with you wherever you go. And I think it always helps just having a couple under your belt just to lubricate the stories and just loosen them up. But, normally I do remember actually grand final weeks they're different, you know, obviously when you're involved as a player, Tommy, and you played in, I mean, you played one or two grand finals?
No, I was emergency for two, but I felt like I was around the group.
So you were preparing as part of it. So obviously that's vastly different.
Just outside the team, but like you're inside the meeting room, you know what I mean?
I remember one year, one of the emergencies, Aaron Shattuck, he had to perform the fitness test on Nigel Lappin, who had broken ribs. So you can imagine how hard Aaron Shattuck was going on Nigel Lappin the night before the grand final. 2003, because he's thinking, well, if I can break this rib a little bit further, that means that I'm playing. So
I'll never get when Phil Davis had the sore calf, I was a genuine sniff.
Yeah.
So I was out there like, mate, I'll never forget. They had all the big American investors or supporters or sponsors or whatever. And they're great fellas. And we had everyone in. The Giants had the G. And mate, I've never trained my ass off. I've never kicked the ball any better. I was kicking barrels from like the boundary line, and all the crowd were going, "Who's this bloke?" And I'm thinking, I might be a sniffy if he falls out because I've trained that well.
But he ended up offered to do the run throughs with Phil Davis.
I'll run the water. I'll do anything. Yeah, definitely.
It's funny. Like, I've never seen normally we look after each other as teammates, especially when it comes to a fitness test, but I've never seen a teammate go harder on another teammate the night before the grand final. Was famous, of course. There's great footage of that. But yeah, it's I remember one year, 2007, and the first few years I was involved in grand final week as a player. So obviously you're looking after yourself. We used to fly down on a Thursday night from Brisbane, all that sort of thing. So all of a sudden, when you're not in the grand finals, you go, geez, how good's Melbourne? Around town, getting around, having a few beers. And I do remember 2007, I won the Coleman medal, so I had to go to an official AFL function on the Saturday morning. Now, I got a bit caught up in the festivities of grand final week, so the Friday night, it just kept going. It just never ended, and I ended up probably at the casino, and then before I know it, I was booked in to do an 8 a.m. footy show appearance at the casino again. So I thought, shit, it's 6:30 and I'm still here. So I had to go and get ready, go and do the thing with BT and Gary and the footy show appearance. And obviously you get makeup on to go on TV. Still haven't been to bed. And then as I'm walking out, I knew I then had to go to the AFL function at 10 o'clock. The makeup girl said, "Oh, now do you want me to take your makeup off?" And I thought, shit, I haven't been to bed. I look as pale as a goat. So I said, "No, actually, I'll leave me makeup on." So, so imagine me, I get invited to the Life Members function for the grand final that day. Port Adelaide got belted by Geelong, and I'm standing there talking to David Rees-Jones and the great Bulldog Murray, and I thought, I hope these two of the hard men of our game, I hope these two men don't realise that I've got makeup on. So yeah, grand final week in 2007 might have got the better of me.
That's great. They wouldn't have even noticed, I reckon. It's funny they put makeup on. Do you think it makes a massive difference, makeup? Because you would put a fair bit on with all your TV shows and that.
Yeah, absolutely. People ask you all the time. I usually notice them. I get accused of being a bit of a redneck, but when I go on TV, my neck goes all, your face and my neck goes red, but normally, obviously, you got the face makeup on. So my wife always says as I'm walking out the door, tell them to put makeup on your neck as well. Because it looks like I've got nothing wrong with it. I've got this massive redneck. So
that's the Gold Coast sun.
Yeah, it is the Gold Coast sun. So no, it's enjoyable, mate. But yeah, certainly on TV, it's not one of the best parts of the job. But we've got good makeup girls at Fox Footy.
How long does it take to put the makeup on?
It takes them a long time for me. Just to sharpen me up. And my wife also says, can you get them to open your eyes up a little bit? Because she thinks she's a makeup she's a beauty therapist and eyebrows and makeup and all that. So she often asks, are you any chance of getting an eye lift? So imagine if I turned up like, bro, Nathan Brown's been accused of getting Botox on the forehead during this year. Imagine if I turned up with an eye lift.
I reckon it'd be the ambassador. It'd be Carlton draft out the way and you'd be the Botox ambassador, mate.
I'd turn up on TV with the eye lift, eh? That wouldn't go viral, would it?
I reckon it would, mate. I reckon it would. Sam Newman obviously did it for years, and I reckon you'd have to just. But when you do it once, you got to keep doing it, don't you? Apparently, so if you do it once for a laugh, and then it'll go even droopier. I feel like so. Stay away.
Old mate Campbell Brown, who we do the podcast, Brownie's podcast, and I know he's been on here. He went viral. It's one of those clips. Brownie's offered for us to get Botox on air, so I'm not sure about that, Brown Dog. So
I would love to see that. Mate, how is the podcast going? Because it's a great name and great combo, and I mean the Brown Dog especially. He's a very enjoyable man to be around.
He's a loose unit, isn't he, Brown Dog? We love him, Campbell. Obviously a premiership player, and he often reminds us that probably should have won the Norm Smith medal in 2008. He kicked a goal there from half back, and he thinks he was robbed by Luke Hodge. Often reminds of that before he headed off to go his infamous trek up to the Gold Coast. But no, he's an absolute beauty. Obviously, we had his 40th a few weeks ago, and he's so much fun to be around, and I love doing the podcast with him. And, he's so many funny stories, obviously, over the time, but he's got himself in a few sort of hairy situations, and he loves his racehorses. Yeah, absolutely. So most of my stories around Brown are centred around racehorses, and I was very fortunate that my wife has got me out of a couple of scrapes. Kyle's, I mentioned her a couple of times. She got me out of a scrape with when Fev got in a bit of strife for doing that footy show Street Talk. Oh yeah, when I was supposed to be doing that. And because Kyle's was heavily pregnant, I said to the Channel 9 producer, no, I've got to go upstairs to look after Kyle's, who's about to have a bub. So why don't you ask Fev to do the Street Talk at the Brownlow? That was obviously very infamous.
That was it. That was him done.
That was the other one. And the other one was when Brown Dog's Sweet Idea, the horse was running the Magic Millions. And I was there with Brown Dog, and Sweet Idea won, and we're all celebrating. But again, Kylie was heavily pregnant. So Dog wanted to go out and celebrate. I said, we're on the Gold Coast. I said, look, I've got to take Kyle's home. Got to look after her, do the right thing. Well, that night, obviously, Brown Dog got a bit carried away, got a bit excited. Was arrested, unfairly so, in the wash-up, but nevertheless, arrested.
In the can.
Obviously, the next day, I'm just sitting up at home on the Gold Coast, and I'm just sitting back, and I thought I'll send a text message to the old Brown Dog and say, how'd your night go? At this stage, didn't realise he'd been arrested. How'd the night go? And I was just wondering, a very, very somber text message about, yeah, good. I thought, geez, that's unusual. He's just won a Group 1. He's won a fortune on the punt. I thought I would add a bit more of an expansive message. And just so I received the message, a little, the little ticker underneath the news comes up. Campbell Brown arrested on the Gold Coast on the TV. so yeah, good.
And he generally would have been like, yeah, no, it was a good night.
That's right. I think it might have been his first text as he got his phone back when he was let out of prison. So,
he does reckon it was an unfair dismissal that night. He told that story.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
And his credit card, he said, he had one phone call and he goes, you can call anyone you think you'd call someone to get him out. He goes, he called his bank and said, cancel the credit card. I'm not having these Gold Coast Suns boys drink on me and I'm not there.
That's right, he was too. He'd left the credit card up in the booth. So, but yeah, as the record states, he was unfairly arrested.
That is good. Yeah. Have you ever bought into any horses as well?
I've got a few horses, yeah. Yep. I've had a bit of fun and I was fortunate enough to be part of a Group 1 winner with Snap Dancer.
Oh, you're in that with Cammy and the boys?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you're in that.
Yeah, so we had a real good time and
what happened to Snappy? What's the latest?
She retired. So,
she retired.
Yeah, she sold. She's going to be off having some babies herself, have some foals. So she was just sold during the year. Yeah, and they got a good price for actually too. So
you boys, I'll never forget because Cammy Emanuel, good mate of mine, and there's a big syndicate there, and I think he texted me. He texted me like maybe the week before saying he's got this horse and. Yeah. I think I remember having a bet on the horse that was leading with Snap Dancer. I don't know whether it was Sandown. It was early days, and it was paying about 20s, and it just led and then kicked and bolted in. And then he came and goes, "That's me horse." I go, "Where's the fucking tip?"
Oh, it was unbelievable. Actually, we were over in America last year, me and Brown Dog and a few mates, and for the Super Bowl in Los Angeles, and we had Grant Smiley. He's a well-known DJ here in Australia and he's got a nightclub or a night spot there in LA and he was having, like a sort of a bit of a show on leading into the Super Bowl and word got around the Snap Dancer. Snap Dancer was running that night in LA, which was obviously daytime here in Australia. Yeah. She was running at Randwick. So obviously we've come to Grant Smiley's place and we were pumped up. We were all ready to watch this horse. And so anyway, obviously the Americans are now allowed to gamble. They're allowed to bet online. So word's gone around that Snap Dancer's running at Randwick and we were all very confident. So I had a couple of NFL blokes, current NFL players, come up and tap me on the shoulder and go, "Hey, man, do you know this horse called Snap Dancer? Do you know where it's running?" So they're not used to online betting. So they're trying to online bet for probably the first time. And the reception wasn't quite good enough to watch the race on the phone.
Really?
So everyone's just refresh on the results. And you look around at about the time that she's running, everyone's on their phone just hitting refresh. And obviously she's just won and all in conjunction, all together, the whole nightclub has just risen. The big roar went up. I think the whole nightclub was on it because most of them were Aussies and a few NFL players floating around. So Snap Dancer gave us a lot of joy.
Oh, that's and pays well and paid well frequently. It was never like short. It was always juicy. You were like, oh, do I, don't I?
Yeah, won a Group 1 in Adelaide, paid over $20.
Yep.
So they're always handy.
Oh, mate. And you would have loaded it every time, wouldn't you?
Yeah. We had a bit of a crack, but when it's paying over $20, you don't need to.
No, exactly right. That's the dream, isn't it? Like just having a Group 1.
I reckon Lee Matthews said to me that the greatest thrill he's had in sport, and obviously Lee's won 8 premierships, 4 as a player and 4 as a coach, and voted arguably the greatest player of all time. But he said the greatest thrill for that 30 seconds is having a Group 1 winner, even though he might only own its hoof for a couple of hairs on its tail. But when she won, I was there at Caulfield last year and she won the Memsie Stakes. The thrill of just seeing that for that 30-second rush, see a horse win a Group 1 that you got a part of, it was unbelievable. Like I agree with Lee. It sort of almost puts it past winning a premiership.
Yeah, well, Nathan Broad was on Broady and the boys. They've got a fair few horses, and they've got the Melbourne Cup favourite, and they reckon, when it won a Group 1 the year before, it was just. Same thing. He goes, look, we've won premierships. He goes, this is probably just as good, or if not better, like just for that same period of time, and because you're sharing it with your mates as well. It's one of those things that's hard to find, and
well, it's just such a thrill, and it was probably the only surpassed by or on the same par as my mum actually trained my uncle was a greyhound trainer, and so my mum, his sister, decided to have a crack at training a dog herself. And this dog was called Modern Assassin. His kennel name was Zach. And so mum just had a crack at it. My uncle said, why don't you have a go at mares? And so she had a go at it. And, well, this dog turned out to be a multiple Group 1 winner.
Oh, you're kidding.
And named Modern Assassin. And it was a big race, the Paws of Thunder in Sydney at Wentworth Park. And it was also the same night that Nigel Lappin had his wedding. So we're pretty excited. 2002, we had his wedding in Lorne. It was on the Saturday night and coincided with the race. Well, the speeches were lined up
for about
the time of the Paws of Thunder. We're up at the Pacific Hotel, a big one out on the cliff there in Lorne, and a heap of the boys there, Lepper and the Scott boys and the old Lions teammates. And I thought this, and the Lappins are a family, they're punters, they don't mind a punt as well.
Yeah.
So word had got around again. Well, we've had to hold up the speeches. I said to the MC, said, mate, you're going to have to hold the speeches because half the wedding wants to go down to the local Lorne Hotel where the Sky Channel's on and watch the race. So we've all loaded up in the car, headed down to the pub, and everyone's had a real crack at Modern Assassin. We've loaded up, and he's jumped. He missed the start. Anyway, he eventually rounded up the leader, and he's got up by a nose. The official margin, well, you can imagine the roof of this pub in Lorne is absolutely fucking lifted off because all the Lappin clan, all the Lions players were all on it. Absolutely pumped. So that's probably the biggest thrill I've had in racing. I thought my neck's on the line here, and I'm holding up the speeches. Claire Lappin's going to be pissed with me. So anyway, we load back into the cars, back up to the wedding, and we walk in. I just give the thumbs up to the MC. So you start the speeches. Claire did give me a few death stares, but everyone was happy. So it was a great night.
The energy in the room would have been
mate, it was unbelievable.
The best wedding ever, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, don't worry. A few of those country boys had a big crack because Modern Assassins opened at about $2.80. By the time he jumped, it was about $1.80. So I think all the wedding was on it.
That is that's the best. I love hearing those stories. It's like winning a quaddie with your mates, but that's brilliant. Have you had any big quaddie wins with the boys? Because they're hard to win, the quaddie, especially on Spring Carnival weekend. It's bloody tough.
Well, the one trip, we used to do a Toyota bus trip all during finals. It was part of the Good for Footy program, and BT and Spud, Frawley would organise it. And it was so much fun. We go on tour for 4 or 5 days. They get the current AFL boys, and you go to a different region. So you might be going southwest of Victoria. You do 3 or 4 clinics in the different towns, and then it'd be a big night. You'd have a big night, and then you go to the next. You might head up to the Albury region. So a lot of travel on the bus, but it was so much fun. The one year I wasn't on it, we'd always take a quaddie. The one year I wasn't on, but Mark Rasciuto was, and he got some great tips. The boys took the quaddie, and the last winner paid. I'm not sure if it was 100 to 1, but certainly closer to 100 to 1 than 5 to 1, let's say. And anyway, the horse got up that last leg, and the boys waited around. They got video of it. I think BT took the video on the bus as they're travelling to the next region, and the dividend read out $44,000. So, and obviously the boys had all chipped in. They were all part of it. They had a full unit, 44 grand. So
they had the 100% of the quaddie.
I think they had 100%. So
that's the dream.
It's fair to say that the Toyota credit card didn't have to get used much that night.
Hey, it's still going to get used. It still going to get used, I reckon.
So when I saw obviously I got inundated with texts from all the boys while I wasn't on the trip. So when I saw the video, I was bloody spewing. I thought of all years not to be on it. Yeah.
It's always the case, isn't it?
Yeah,
always the case.
Yeah, so that was a big one.
Do you love the Spring Carnival? Like, will you be getting around all the, Cox Plate, Stakes Day, Derby Day? Which one's your favourite?
Always Cox Plate. We usually always go to every year, but a lot of sort of anniversaries in our family are measured on horse dates. And I was reminded that it doesn't always fall on that exact day, but it's just a rough measure for me. So I know my wedding anniversary is always roughly Cox Plate Day. It's another one. We had to hold the wedding ceremony because we were worried that all the boys would be watching. I think it was back in the day before you watched on the phone. We were worried that they'd be listening on the trannies in the church. So the year the Maldivian won the Cox Plate, we had to move the wedding back by half an hour so that everyone could watch the Cox Plate.
It's always a bit of a cardinal sin when you get a wedding invite and you go, oh, fuck, you're kidding, aren't you?
Exactly
on Stakes Day, Derby Day.
So it is easy to remember, though. So I know that Cox Plate is coming up. I think, right, our wedding anniversary, do something for Coles. Derby's always
Your birthday's
my birthday.
29, so I'm the 28th, so I realise
that's
that.
right.
Yeah.
So you know that one. And Olivia, my eldest, she's the next day. She's the 30th. So we always know it's about Derby Day. And then young Jackie Brown, my 10-year-old son, he's the 3rd of November. So I think that's about Melbourne Cup Day.
Yeah, oh, that's all right there, isn't
That's
it?
right. So this year it's sort of fallen on those days. So I'm not going to be able to make it this year, but geez, there's so much fun. So normally Cox Plate and Derby Day are the two big ones.
Yeah, that's it's a bit.
Yeah. What's your?
Oh, my uncle gets on the rails. He gets like a tent and or like he puts on a barbecue, drinks overnight, puts them all on ice, and then I bring all my mates and we go in there and. Done that for years. So they're normally Stakes Day, Derby Day, but then Cox Plate being, went to school in Essendon and it's, it's around the corner. That was always a bit of a go, but
I just love the amphitheatre of Cox Plate and small and intimate. Obviously, they can only get 20-odd thousand there.
Yeah.
I was there for Winx's 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, I was there for Winx's last one there as well.
And they're just amazing.
That was special.
It was special.
I remember looking to my left and there was an old couple and one of the they were crying. They were crying. I thought, fuck, this means a lot to some people.
Yeah.
Like it's actually this might be something that we're taking for granted.
In time, aren't they? And at the end of the day, they're an athlete. So you know, and so it's great to say I was there when this happened.
We've become good mates with a few jockeys. And you just don't you don't realise that there's just so much work that goes into it, and there's so much luck, and even like your snap dancer, which you'd know, but like you need the right prep, you need the luck, you need the ride, you need everything to go right on the day, and it's so to have a group, it's
make
crazy.
Sure those little bastards on top don't fuck them up. So
we get stuck into the boy. So we got Regan Bayless and Dylan Gibbons in our NFL fantasy league, and. The boys get into them, but tell you what, they can give it back as well. They're great.
I'm fortunate enough, I get to play golf from time to time with Glenn Boss and amongst a few of the boys, and he's just such a great man, Bossy, and such a humble man. And I remember the first time I played golf with him, and I drove all the way out there, and I knew I was playing with Bossy. I thought, just hold off on asking him about Mackay Diva in the Melbourne Cups. Because imagine if he just get everywhere he goes, you just get peppered. And I was very proud of myself. I lasted to the second tee until I asked my first Mackay Diva question. But he's very respectful. He answered the question. I thought, I know the things, the gears in his brain are ticking over, thinking, what an absolute fuckwit. The brown dog, you could have at least waited a little bit longer.
Wait till like the 19th hole where you're having a beer, When I grew up, that was everything. Like you didn't know anything about horse racing, but you just wanted to watch Mackay Diva.
Yeah, Mackay said, just don't get into trouble. She was so good.
Just let it out.
Just keep her off the fence. Don't get her in any strife and just pull her out and away she goes. So imagine the thrill of riding a horse like that.
Oh, well, did you ask him if he ever was really anxious because his expectations are just to win? Like, did he ever think about or was he just the horse was that good? He just had to keep it off the fence.
Well, that's right. Keep it off the fence. I think those guys they're so brave and courageous, and they're competitors, aren't they? So I think that you can't get to where someone like Glenn Boss has got in elite sport without relishing those moments. I think that's what separates the great athletes in any sport or any code to the to the good and the very good, because they embrace those moments and they run towards the fire, and because it can be a very suffocating feeling when you do get confronted with those moments. But the great ones seem to be able to push through that and embrace that moment. And obviously I was fortunate enough to play with many of them myself, but I couldn't think of no greater example than a jockey carrying the weight of a nation on his shoulders than, say, Glenn Boss, and especially that third Melbourne Cup.
Oh, yeah. Well said.
And obviously Winx in the third and fourth as well.
Yeah, well said, mate. Well said. Well, speaking of blokes that run to the fire, you played with some of the best players ever to play the game. Yeah. Now that you've been out for a little while, do you reflect much, or you still, because you're in the media and you're still talking day to day and you do see the boys? I know you had your reunion the other week, and congratulations as well. You're a Hall of Famer. That's what they induct you for again. The actual terminology.
Yeah, I got elevated to a legend status. which is pretty amazing. Really, there's 6 of us now in the whole history of the Fitzroy Brisbane Lions.
It's amazing, mate. Well done.
So thanks, Tommy. It was actually. It was very humbling, put it that way, because Dad played for Fitzroy, and so I grew up a Fitzroy supporter. So I know the history of the Lions. So to be sort of in mention that similar company with Hayden Button Senior, won 3 Brownlows. Obviously, Gary Wilson was a legend player. Dad played with Bulldog Murray, probably the greatest Fitzroy Lion of all time, and Vossi, and then to be elevated with my great mate Simon Black was amazing. Obviously, our careers intersected together, me and Blackie, and we got a photo at the end of it. He had a medal on, and I didn't have a medal on, and I said, where's my fucking medal? And they go, we're already in the Hall of Fame. I didn't realise Blackie wasn't in the Hall of Fame because the last time 5 years ago the Lions had a Hall of Fame night, Blackie was doing Survivor. He was on an island in Fiji, looking for some keys or something in the sand, I think. So he actually got straight away. It shows how good he was, wasn't he? Yeah, don't worry about just getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. We're just going to put you straight into legend status. And that was Simon Black. So yeah, it was great. It was a great night, and I was very proud. And Dad was there in the room, which was nice.
That's awesome, mate. So yeah, so Legend's as big as it gets. There's no, obviously, I always wonder how they, the tiers, because Hall of Fame is big, but Legend is that's the pinnacle, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's why I sort of wanted the kids. I got the kids to go, and the kids stormed the stage. It was all about them as usual at this stage of their life. So
that's awesome.
I said, the kids are, it's a long night. We got presented on stage about 10:30. I said, the kids have about had enough. And Hutto goes, they probably want to be on stage dancing. And then before you know it, the kids are on stage. I'm trying to do the interview and they're on stage dancing, carrying on. But it was beautiful to have the kids there. And it was just great to see the old teammates. And you ask about reflection. I find, actually, Craig McRae got up and made a wonderful speech because he was one of the inductees into the Hall of Fame, and he just spoke about living in the moment. And I think the great thing about Lee Matthews for us, teaching all of us boys, was living in the moment. And I was able to live in the moment, and I still find myself living in the moment, so I don't feel myself reflecting much at all. But it is nice to take yourself back in moments like that where you have the Hall of Fame night. So it's 20 years for us, 20-year reunion since 2003 grand final, and you do see some moments like that. And then, if grand final week works out, Brisbane Collingwood, that would obviously be some nice symmetry with that, 20 years since we knocked them over at the G. So you find yourself reflecting in those moments, but, as far as memorabilia and all that, my memorabilia is, in a storage facility to stay forever because my wife won't let me put it up anywhere.
You need a little man cave.
Yeah, I do, don't I?
Yeah, you need a man cave. Yeah. It's a bit like that. I always ask, where's the medals? And everyone goes, we just tucked them away so that no one can steal them.
Yeah, it is. Look, I just love playing. I just love watching current day athletes and the footballers. And obviously I'm a supporter of the Brisbane Lions. I just love watching the current crop, and I hope that they have their own legacy, and I'm probably more cheering for that than looking back, that's for sure.
Do you watch, who do you, I'll stay with Brisbane and before we go to the competition, but you watch a fair bit of footy, but who really, because you're watching now, are you a bit of a fan of any player in particular? Who's your favourite at the Lions? Like just the way they go about it, you go, I just love this bloke. I'd put the jersey on with his number if I was to wear a jersey.
Well, I've got a soft spot for Cam Rayner because he wears the same number 16, and I feel like he's a player that's got a bit of X factor about him, and I think he doesn't mind the big moments. He embraces them. He's did a couple of nice things, kicked a couple of big goals against Port Adelaide in that first final, and he looks to me like he relishes the challenge. So I've been really proud of him, and I know people, a lot of pressure on him, a first-round draft pick, but he's really getting there. And but I've obviously got a soft spot of the blokes I play with, and I think Dane Zorko's done he's had a magnificent career, 5-time best and fairest. He's been maligned by the outside world, because he has been controversial at times and he's got himself in a little bit of hot water, but I think he's had fantastic resilience. There are a couple of blokes that, spring to mind. I was very proud of Harris Andrews, the way he's played this year, and taking on that captaincy role. He was like a little giraffe. When he first came in, he was there when I was just finishing up, and I tried to teach him a couple of tricks there towards the end, but the way he's grown and developed into an All-Australian player, and this year a captain, he should have been an All-Australian this year. He's been a fantastic captain. So they're 2 or 3 to spring them on.
Yeah, well said, mate. Well said. What about our man Dunks? Obviously, he does a podcast with us, and he's watching from the outside, and he's a perfect team man and does all the hard things. You must have enjoyed seeing him come to the Lions and play a role and sit next to like a Lockie Neal and let him get to work.
Absolutely, yeah. Dunks has been the missing link. And I think that's why he's recruited, and that we need that bigger body midfielder to support Lockie, and Dane Zorko and Zach Bailey and the likes in there. And the fact that he's gone out and done a job on Patrick Cripps early in the season, that just shows you got that big bull in there, that big body midfielder who works as hard defensively as he does offensively. I just think that was the piece in the puzzle that the Lions were missing. So, yeah, that's big praise, I know, but he's capable of it. And the only premiership player in the team.
Yeah, he's won one and being the two.
That's important, being the two. So that experience too, just to help settle some of the younger players, but he's been a fantastic pickup.
A great man as well. It's
he's a beauty, isn't he?
Yeah, really good person, and they all are actually. I was up there for Lockie Neal's 30th and had a good night with a few of the boys, and they're all
very humble, aren't they? And they're very tight. I think that this, Tommy, from being playing for an interstate team or a couple of interstate teams, but certainly when you're younger, if you've got a lot of interstate boys, you rely on each other because you don't have that wide circle of friends like some of the Melbourne clubs would. So
you're right.
They've developed a real strong knit unit.
Spend more time together because you're travelling every second week. If you're not travelling, then the travel group leaves, and the seconds. If you're in the twos, you're tight as well, and you're talking about how can we get better and get in the team. And
that's right.
I reckon you're right. I reckon there's something there. And I reckon I would have struggled in Melbourne. How do you reckon you would have? I mean,
it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, I reckon I look back now and go, I'm very grateful I went to Fremantle and then the Giants. I get back down here. There's so many distractions. Even just being like out of the game hey mate, you want to get a beer? It's like it's fucking Wednesday night. And it's hard to say no. You say no, but I just think if I was playing in Melbourne and you're going all right, there'd be a lot of distractions.
Yeah, absolutely. I never had that affiliation with Melbourne because I grew up outside of Warrnambool, so 3 odd hours out of Melbourne. But and obviously there was the pull of playing in front of big crowds weekly, especially playing for a big club. But, I really enjoyed being out of there and, where I sort of helped build the culture of AFL football up in Queensland, that's for sure. But, there wasn't a lot of distractions, and I think that certainly helped, especially when it came to grand final weeks and certainly finals when I think especially when the profile of the team really built and we're becoming a superpower, to actually be out of town and really just get around town like a normal person in the weeks leading up to those massive games, I think that helped.
Yeah.
I certainly think that helped. I think you can look at it two ways. Lee Matthews always wanted to make sure that we were aware of what the footy world was saying about us. So you turn up Monday morning, you'd have massage and weights, whatever it was, recovery. He had about 15 Herald Suns there.
Oh, so he actually brought the external noise in.
Oh, shit, yeah.
I thought, because we kind of blocked that out. We'll be on Freo blocking out the external noise, but you're saying Lee brought it in.
Because you guys are in a footy place. Perth is a big footy town.
Yeah.
Brisbane wasn't. And I suppose you had to build some internal pressure if the external pressure wasn't there. So Lee brought a bit of that in just to give you an awareness of still, where you sit in the footy world. Now, he didn't force you to read the papers, but he just wanted you to have an awareness of it. He's just subtle, So, and I think that helps because the challenge, especially in the northern states, is you can get comfortable. You can get comfortable because externally there's no noise.
No pressure.
There's no pressure really. And all of a sudden that can sort of bleed. That can bleed into your subconscious. Just take the foot off the throat a little bit, especially if you don't have a coach internally putting the foot on the throat. And that's why I think, it'll be interesting. I think Damien Hardwick's a great appointment for the Gold Coast because now they just need that coach. I was just
thinking that, yeah.
And, I know they talk about vulnerability and all that, but don't worry, Dim will have a hard side to him. Dim will be able to just go in there. The time is right for that group just to put the foot on the throat a bit and just drive because, you sort of you got to have that bit of pressure to sharpen the diamond, and I think that's what Lee was able to bring.
You're well said. I think someone was saying Gold Coast have yet to have a lot of success with their sporting, the sporting teams because that one thing, it's such a great lifestyle and great place to live and more relaxed than anywhere.
Elements, and that's bullshit about the Gold Coast saying the Gold Coast Suns won't be successful because of previous history. The Suns, well, it's got nothing to do. Previous history with Gold Coast sporting teams, it's got nothing to do with it. Gold Coast as a city's changed. It's a major metropolis now. It's not a transient place as it used to be. It's a normal city now. So, yes, albeit you don't have a culture of a smaller town like Geelong where it's all footy. There is other sports, but the Gold Coast Suns are well set up now. They've built that base. Now it's just putting all those pieces together. And I think the final piece is now getting a big-time coach that's been there and done that and just knows how to just grind the group a bit.
Yeah,
Just to get them to the next level because they've got the talent there.
They have the talent. They actually that's why I get so frustrated. They got the talent. Like you'll see them click straight into gear, I reckon, with just a bit of a better game plan and I reckon a few players that were floating a bit, they'll just be sharpened up and they'll start well. You watch.
Absolutely. And I think the talent pathways, I see it with my kids, all the way down from under 13s all the way through. The talent pathways are ahead of the southern states. Like there's so many kids playing AFL, especially on the Gold Coast. Like you only got to look at the Suns. They have that many academy picks this year. Another 5 kids made the All-Australian, the under 16s. Like these 13-year-old kids that I'm seeing, like they don't miss a kick at training. They're guns because they're doing AFL at school as a subject. They're doing 2 nights a week of training. They're training with the Suns Academy. Same lines. They're just getting so much football now up in Queensland that Damien Hardwick's walking into a place where he's got a footy factory of incoming talent year after year after year. So any coach any coach that's got it together, he's going to be able to put that team together.
He's a smart man, isn't he? He's gone there for it. He's picked a great time, I reckon, to go there. Who's there?
Well, good timing, I think, for both. I think it's good timing to get out of Richmond.
Yep.
He's done everything he can there. Time for the group to have a freshen up, a new voice, which supported Dimmer to realise that, and then go for a new challenge. I think it works out well for both.
No, well said. I think, and I think he'll enjoy the sunshine up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting out of Melbourne,
He already looks like he's got a bit of a glow to him.
Yeah, that's another thing. Geez, Brownie, not that we want to talk about the weather on this podcast, but living in Melbourne in winter, it wasn't too bad this year, but when you haven't lived in Melbourne for many winters and playing footy in Sydney or Perth or Brisbane, it's a different lifestyle, isn't it, big fella? Like you're not even worrying about those cold nights.
Lee used to say that to us. We're at an advantage. During the footy season, we're going to train. It's 18, 20 degrees, beautiful skies during the winter time. And so your body's not as sore. It's not as hard to get yourself up for training. And Lee used to mention that to us a fair bit and sell the message that we're at an advantage, all those sorts of things. And we believed it. No doubt about it, we believed it because you'd only need to remind yourself on a Friday night. You come down, you fly in on a Friday arvo, you train, and, be pissing rain at about 8 degrees and you go, actually, we're pretty lucky. We're pretty lucky up north.
Yeah. Let's speak of Lee quickly before we get back into you. I find him fascinating and you mentioned him a fair bit, but he's obviously had a massive impact on all you lads that played under him. What's your relationship like with Lee now? Like how many times would you talk to him throughout the year and what is the message that you could probably share with all the Ausamerican aces that we could all kind of take into our life that he's kind of, shared with the group that you still think about today?
Yeah, he's look at his legacy. I think, 4 senior coaches this year and obviously several other blokes that have played under him are assistant coaches or done very well in football clubs. Like look at Craig Kelly, the CEO of Collingwood. One of the most successful ex-players the game's seen, obviously, with his player management company, now CEO of Collingwood, who are finished on top of the ladder this year, just a powerhouse and probably the biggest sporting club in the land. So the legacy of Lee Matthews, and it's because just so many simple lessons in life that we can carry through, not only our football, but it bleeds into your life. So, I don't get to talk to him as much as I'd like to, but we certainly try and catch up every couple of months. And I think as he's got later in life, Lee's like a proud father or a proud grandfather. When we go, we're starting to catch up more and more, the boys. They're playing the flags together and making a bit more of an effort. Like Pikey's been the ringleader at the last couple of years, organising functions. And Lee's the first one to say, yep, I'm there. Yeah. And I think I feel like he's that proud father looking across the room when he sees his boys get together and just go, this is a special group, because that is the time for reflection when you're out of the game. And that's what I sort of observe about Lee. He's still as sharp as ever. His insights into the game are fantastic. He had so many different sayings, but one I always go back to in life, and I try and instill that into me kids and just my own life, is just failure cannot cope with perseverance, was one of his great sayings. And, mate, I'm not sure if he penned it or he ripped it off from somewhere, but he used to say it all the time. And failure cannot cope with perseverance. And it's just one of the great lessons in life. You just keep going, whether it's you doing your podcast, Tommy, and a footballer out there, or a younger one of the kids trying to get through school, whatever it may be. Just keep persistent. Or me doing the painting job at home.
I can see the arms got that paint on it.
2 weeks ago when you rang me, I was on the ladder and I'm thinking, fuck me drunk. I'm like, I haven't got time to do this podcast because this painting's going to go on forever. But you know what? I get here today and I go, actually, my wife said to me when she dropped me off, she goes, we've nearly finished the painting. So
the perseverance.
Failure cannot cope with perseverance. So that's
a great quote.
It's a great quote, isn't it? And a great lesson for life. And I think one of the things that Lee was at the cutting edge of, he wanted his sports science to be the big sports science department when he took over at the Lions, and he won the sports psychologist, Phil Jauncey, who was, he's very big on just behaviour-based stuff. So, we all wake up and some days go, geez, I don't feel great today. I don't really want to do that. But I guess the logic from Lee and from Phil was, what if you wake up in grand final day and you don't want to do it, or you don't feel great? No one gives a fuck, do they?
Yeah.
100,000 people at MCG don't give a fuck if you didn't wake up on the right side of the bed. So start to train yourself with behaviours. Allow the behaviours to lead your mindset and not the other way around. Don't wait for, I'm feeling good today, so now I'm going to go out and play well. So I think, then you try and carry that through your life. You go, righto, get into good habits. Get into good behaviours, and that'll lead you through and lead you to feeling better. Whether they be getting up in the morning and just going to the gym when you don't feel like it, whatever, to set your day up. And I think Lee was big on that, was really big on all those behaviours, setting you up to feel better and then obviously to perform on the bigger stage regularly and consistently.
Yeah, it's well said. What this fascinates me. What's Lee's background? And I'm talking early days, where's he got all this, I guess, gold from? Because he's it is gold, and like you said, he's obviously played the game and he's
gold too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people find themselves with Lee's when he says something. Oh fuck, why didn't I think of that? He just puts it so succinctly.
Yeah, it's like when someone creates something really special and it's so simple, and you go, "Fuck, why didn't I think of that?"
Yeah, I was coming up with big words and all this complicated, convoluted process.
We're talking off air. We should share it, and I'm with you. I definitely agree with you that. Yeah. In life, people complicate. Like even when I'm doing emails, right? You might be having an important email. I'm thinking, fucking hell, this thing's just I just want to pick up the phone and say, bang, 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 and it's done. But when people overcomplicate things, and in an AFL system, the game plan, the terminology, the media, you got all these people that call one thing another thing, and the poor bloke at home, like even a half forward was a fifth and a sixth and a fourth. Like when I got drafted, I go, what the fuck's a sixth?
That's
right. Go, mate, that's the high half forward that goes in the stop. I'm thinking, can't we just say that?
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, if you're a punter out there and a fan, don't, don't get confused by some of the terminology and some of the bullshit, because some of the coaches, they've got a habit of making it sound more complicated than what it actually is, especially when it comes time to finals, because the simple things get it done. You've got to be able to win contests. You've got to have a high amount of pressure. You've got to be prepared to work for each other and play your role and just be connected. That's getting it done in finals. And you know what? Getting it done in big moments, because some of finals are all about moments, aren't they? And can you sort of make the most of that moment or that period of time in a game where you've got momentum? Can you maximise on the scoreboard? Which obviously Melbourne, no greater example. Melbourne weren't able to maximise when they had big periods of momentum in their first two finals. All of a sudden they're sitting at home watching the rest of the final series. So it's a simple game. When you're up there talking to your staff or your pupils or your team, don't fucking have a thesaurus coming out of your mouth, right? Or require your audience to have a fucking dictionary beside them, because that ain't working. And that was the great thing about Lee. You never needed a dictionary or a thesaurus. It's very simple. And I think Craig Bellamy, that's why he's got so much respect in rugby league as well, because I've been in a couple of Bellyaches meetings, and no way, Bellyache cut straight to the point.
Which we love. We love that.
We love that, yeah. A few beeps along the way. But, I'll tell you, so Bellyache's probably a bit more colourful than lethal. But
was lethal, was he like, did he swear a fair bit? Was he aggressive?
He was pretty measured. He used to fire. I always felt like he got a little bit of a lift for his ex-clubs, so Collingwood and Hawthorn.
Yep.
And the blokes, his contemporaries, the contemporary coaches that, he had that rivalry with. So Sheedy, Moldhouse, just to name a couple that you just knew he had,
get up in
had a little bit of extra zip in the pre-game message when he come up against those, because obviously those boys didn't like losing to each other. And the one that stands out, in 2001 we beat Essendon in the grand final, and they were a powerhouse team. Probably should have won more than one flag they did in 2000. We knocked them over. We're underdogs in 01. They probably had a few injuries leading into that game. So anyway, history says we won it. The return bout in 2002, about the middle of the year, we played them at Marvel Stadium, and it was a fair lead-up. It was their first game back. It was their first game we played since that grand final. Big lead-up. James Hird, I think, might have been his first game back, one of his first game back since he'd fractured his skull over in
Freo.
He certainly,
it's in Perth,
There's some sort of accident, I thought, there, and he pretty sure he had the helmet on his head, and Lee and Kevin Sheedy came out during the week and said, well, this game, there's going to be no rules, and obviously that was headlines, the no rules game. And, we had Scott Boys, we had Pikey, we had Leppo, we had Lynchy, had Vossi. Like, we had some absolute animals that played on our team, Mal Michael, that just loved to scrap. And we're leading to address it. We had the midweek training meeting, the opposition meeting. So fucking Lee still hasn't addressed this no rules comment from Kevin Sheedy. And it's everywhere. We get asked, but anyway, we jump on the plane, fly down to Melbourne, turn up to Marvel Stadium, and the boys are thinking, what's going on? What's lethal? What's the direction going to be? He gives us the final demands, goes through the team, just we're about to run out of Marvel. I thought, fuck, he still hasn't addressed it. He goes, hey, boys, and one last thing before we go out, just about to run out. And he goes, as far as Sheedy's comments about no rules, he said, I'm happy if we play by those rules. Fucking hell. I'll tell you what, I thought the cockroach, Lethal's he's virtually green lit. He's green lighting us just to go out there. Well, Brad Scott's grabbed James Hird, put him in a fucking suplex move, flattened him on the arse. There was about 4 all-in brawls, about $100,000 worth of Malay fines. I think 2 or 3 of us got suspended for whacking blokes. So don't worry, you can guarantee that was a no-rules game, that's for sure. But we had to pay a few fines after it. So that sums up Lethal. Just had a little bit of spice.
Held it to the very end.
Held it to the very end.
All the fluff during the week. He's like, the last message will be no rules.
It was like a red rag to a bull. So you can imagine the boys. We won.
Okay.
We won, but a few of us didn't play the next week. The sales were busy. It was a busy tribunal.
You had it, mate. You had it like, geez, I'd hate to play on the wing against, you just think about these machines that you played with back then, and even the body types back then. I don't even know how the teams would marry up, it's a different era, but just such a physical, strong body, lineup versus these days, probably way more,
It's a good point. Like Scott Murphy's actually now at Geelong, does great things at Geelong, and they got a few bigger boys. They won the flag last year, of course, on the back of that physicality. And Scotty was our weights coach at Brisbane during that successful era. He was also the weights coach or the coach for the shot putter, the Australian shot putters at the time. So, we were big lifters in the gym. We had some big boys.
What were you throwing?
I had the record lines. I'm not sure it's been beaten. I had the bench press. I walked into the club, I could do 80 kilos. So the bench, we had all the records up on the board. And as a skinny 18-year-old from Warrnambool, the bench press was the top one. That was the blue ribbon event. I said, Alistair Lynch, 155 kilos, which is a decent lift for a 1 rep of bench press. And I was 80 kilos. I thought I'm fucking no chance. But I dreamed of it one day. And eventually, a few years later, I hurt my knee, one of the off-seasons. So all I did, I thought, fuck it, that record's mine. I'm taking Lynchy down. So I just did bench press every second day. And eventually I got the record. I knocked over 157 and a half.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, and I used to watch the shot putters. They'd come in and they could throw some heavy steel, some big steel around. It was almost embarrassing. Like us flimsy little boys from the southwest of Victoria, we didn't want to ever walk in, certainly do weights while they were doing it. But I watched them. They used to put a heap of T-shirts on and make themselves feel tight. So the day I went for the record to knock over Lynchy this day, I reckon I walked in with about 15 T-shirts on. I was as tight as a drum, and I got the record up. But we certainly love the lift, and I think the footy's a bit different now. And I'm not sure the boys prepare like that or lift as heavy as we used to do.
Yeah. Well, no, as I said, the bodies were much bigger, and that game's a piss. I was an Essendon fan growing up. I'm surprised I don't vividly remember that scrappy game, but I remember you guys belting us in the 0-1 granny because I was in tears.
It was amazing. Jeez, we had a belief there, but you're never quite sure. We'd won 15 in a row, and we turned up the MCG, and I think it was 28 degrees, Tommy, and just think, fucking, this is perfect for us.
Yeah.
Melbourne's just gone through a long winter, 28 degrees. This is perfect for us, and just everything about that grand final day was special and was perfect. And even when we got on the bus, we used to stay at Park Royal in St Kilda Road, and it was we come down, you do the grand final parade the day before. There was a lot of Lions colours there, obviously a lot of black and white, black and red as well. And then the next everything went well the night before. Then the next day you go to get on the bus, and a fellow, the President of the United States of America, was surrounded by police motorbikes. And I thought, what the fuck's going on here? And then come a long way from South Warrnambool, that's for sure. And they just took us straight onto the tram lines, all the way down the tram lines, down St Kilda Road, down to Federation Square. All the motorbikes stopping traffic. You swing right past Federation Square, head down towards Brunton Avenue, down into the MCG, and on the way you could see all the colours of the fans walking to the MCG, and that's when you got the appreciation. Thought, shit, they're all here for us.
Yeah.
And so it was just special. And Lee Matthews said to us that week, just embrace it. Really enjoy it, because you might never get back here again. So as a 19-year-old kid, that's what I did. I thought, this is pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're getting a police escort to the MCG and going in, just look around, look at the colour and look at the excitement of it. And then, you go into the rooms, and it was funny because Lee didn't want any extra stuff up around the rooms, so it was still the old Richmond rooms. So there was no Brisbane Lions paraphernalia around, had all the old Richmond gear up, which was funny. And then, you just go out and you do your thing. But it was a very eerie feeling, I remember, because people always love to know what goes on behind the scenes. And you talk about the pre-match entertainment and all the goings-on out there. Well, you actually can't hear it, or you didn't know what was going on. And I think In Excess may have been playing in the pre-game, and I vividly remember putting my boots on, and I still remember I had the Adidas Copamundials on that day. I'm lacing my boots up, sitting in the old locker room, the old Richmond locker rooms out in the bowels of the MCG, and the door would swing open at the top of the race, and I could hear, never tear us apart.
Oh, wow.
And then the door would shut, and then silence. It was like you're in a tomb. And that's when, the nerves started to really set in. You think, shit, there's a fair bit going on 30 metres away. And, you sort of, and then when it's time to go, you get out at the top of that race. And I think there was a fair bit of tension for us boys. One of the things that stands out, though, or the only thing that stands out, is the top of that race, just before we went out, Lee grabbed us. And this is very rarely ever did this. He grabbed us and pulled us together and said, hey, boys, I just want to let you know how proud I am of yous. I love yous. I love you for what you've done the last 15 weeks. I'm proud to be a part of yous. Today, not that it doesn't matter, but just go out there and give it your best. And he let us go. And from that time on, he probably sensed in the group that we might be a bit tense and a bit tight.
Yeah.
And it was just like that pressure release valve. And then we set off. He sent his young blokes on their way. And sort of going into battle, and down the race you come, and just that wave of euphoria and excitement and noise hits you, and it feels like your feet don't touch the ground for the first 15 minutes. You're running around. It's just an amazing, amazing experience, and fortunate enough we're able to get it done on the day.
Mate, you've summed that up beautifully. You're a great storyteller, and I think anyone listening and watching, even like me now sitting there, it's like we're putting the Adidas shoes on ourselves right now and about to run out, because it is the dream. Not many people will ever get the chance to even run out on the MCG, let alone that day in that team, that moment, like you just summed up. And Lee's got a bit of beautiful leadership about him in that moment, doesn't he? He's recognised it, he's addressed it, and he's also, you know...
It's timing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of timing.
Knowing your group.
Exactly right. It's a bit like the moments you talk about on the footy field. He's clearly got the moments as a coach, and he knows when to pull the right rein, and he probably waited a while to say that. And as you said, the pressure was probably released from coach to players, and players are probably like, oh, well, if he wants us to play free, then we will, and out you go and you play well.
That's right. You know, it's a vivid memory of mine, and obviously he would have known as a player himself. He's been through that, and I saw you know, there's so much goes on in the locker room that the fans don't get to see, and I think, you know, I'm a fan of all sports, and it's like the NFL. You never get to go into the NFL rooms. Oh, what goes on in there?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, it's just normal stuff that happens in suburban footy. But there is those moments in time that you'll never forget, and like one of them was that moment. Another one was, we didn't know Nigel Lappin was going to play in 2003, right up until the team sheets had to be in, back in those days, 40 minutes before the game. And I think 45 minutes out, we still didn't know. And Chris Scott was stripped, ready to play. And Chris had a few injury problems himself, but he was one of the emergencies ready to go. And Lee said, you strip for this game if Nige doesn't get up. So I was actually doing some stretching, and just before the final teams were announced, and Chris Scott was just there, just beside me. And I remember Lee Matthews coming out of the medical room, and obviously armed with the knowledge of the Nige had just said, no, I'm going to play. And really vivid, I still remember Lee walking across, tapping Chris Scott on the shoulder and saying, Nige is playing, put your clothes back on.
Oh.
And you think, you know, one of the best players that I've played with and heart and soul team member, I thought just how heartbreaking.
Yeah.
This is 40 minutes before a grand final. 100,000 people there going to win our third premiership. And you just see how heartbreaking you were for a mate, a teammate, and the class and the grace that he handled that, and just got up and went over his locker and put his Lions uniform back on, or his suit, whatever it was. You're heartbroken for him. And then you look over and see Nigel Lappin and you think, what a fucking warrior.
Mm.
You know, like, how tough must this man be? How inspirational, when you know he's got busted ribs. As we found out afterwards, he probably had a punctured lung going to the game, and then all of a sudden you're heartbroken, and then you're inspired by a teammate, all in a matter of moments.
Yeah.
So there's those moments in time that you'll never forget.
That is class. Being a former specialist emergency mate, you know, 2 on grand final day. I'll tell you what, different though. It wasn't like you were warming up. There was one year that you thought you were a sniff, but you're right. It takes, and that's why I've got a lot of respect for the fringe players, because if you're a good bloke, you need you're on the fringe for a reason. You're not in the best team, and you also need it's about the team, and you gee the boys up, do your thing. But also, if you're required, you need to be ready, and it's a very tough position to be in, being emergency, because you actually are a chance to, like, you're literally a chance to become a Norm Smith medalist. If you imagine you come in and you win, like you're that far off being right there, but you're also if you don't get in, you're back with everyone else, and you can't let your emotions get the better. You just got to think, how can I be the best teammate? How can I just you just got to take it for what it is. And you flip it, and we've all seen it. Not probably grand final day, but more just during the season. The blokes that spit the dummy and think, I'd never want to be like that. And you see it, and you go, that is as far as Just
you guarantee if like Chris Scott cracks the shits in that moment,
it could rattle the group.
It could rattle the group, and guarantee he wouldn't be coaching an AFL club. He wouldn't be a 2-time premiership coach. Yep. At this stage of his career, as well as obviously
it shows the character of the man.
Man,
the perseverance, like you said. You could call it a failure, or you could call it perseverance.
That's right. And that's and it takes a whole club and a whole team of players. Like 23 will play grand final day, but you can guarantee probably 35, maybe 38 of some clubs have played throughout the season. So it's an interesting one, and all those emergencies. It's funny, the emergencies, Timmy Notting, and my best mate out of footy, the Poss, he's an absolute beauty, but he missed out in 03. And I'm not sure, I think he was one of the emergencies, but once the game starts, well, there's not much you can do. So Old Possum, still that funny story. He really enjoyed himself. He went that hard. He had about, the old cricket, when you go to the cricket and you drink the schooners in the crowd with the plastic cups and you build the cup tower.
The snake.
Yeah, they said Possum had built one of the biggest towers of all time. They said,
the tower,
They would have put the Australian cheer squad out of they would have put him out of sorts in if it come to Boxing Day, So Possum was on fire. Because I remember that year when we won our third, few of the emergencies and few of the blokes that didn't play, they were absolutely fucking blind when they were on the ground. They came out of the ground, they were hugging us and carrying on. I thought, Jesus, it's going to take a bit of catching up. These boys have got 3 hours head start on us.
That's a true emergency there. That is what you do. You straighten the piss and just go, wait, come on, boys. Oh,
there's not much I can do about this.
Yeah, well, I never got to celebrate a win because I was 2 grand final emergencies and 2 losses. So you're getting pissed, but it's almost like a funeral after the game. You fucking you don't know what
the contrast there. Yeah, 04. We experienced
you
that.
know it. Yeah, it's the most awkward. Like you've come so far, but you're so you
feel like a failure. You feel like you're probably in that time. You feel like you finished last in the comp.
Yeah.
So in reality, you haven't. You've been able to. You've obviously give yourself your chance to to win it, being there, but gee, it's devastating. And it's funny too. You talk about reflection. I reckon I probably. 04, you probably think about that as much as I do the flags.
I was thinking that. Everyone always thinks about the one that got away. Even like a Tom Brady still thinks about the ones he didn't have. It's like, come on, brother, you've got that many.
It's a good point, isn't it? And maybe because it would have been the legacy of that group if we won 4 in a row that you could, justifiably put yourself ahead of the pack when it comes to the dynasty teams.
Yeah.
But 3 in a row was a pretty good effort.
Let's talk about centre half forward because it's 10. I know you got to shoot off soon. I want to. What's some tips for these young centre half forwards? As you said, simple game. You're up to date with. You've got young kids. You're not outdated at all. Where you played and then you go back in my day. You've seen the way the AFL has transitioned and then game and how it's evolved. What's your tips for centre half forwards and full forwards? Because you've watched so much footy now and you've played so much footy. Yeah. What are the basic fundamentals you'd pass on to anyone out there that might be a young gun?
Well, for me, it's for forwards, and the game has changed slightly, but it always comes back to contest, and especially key forwards, the taller forwards. The taller forwards make their money or they bring their value to the team by being there for their teammates when they need it the most, when your team's under pressure. So usually that means contest. And to be able to have a strong aerial contest doesn't mean you have to take the mark, but you've got to at least stop the opposition from taking the mark. And to do that, you've got to be in contest. So contest comes back to 2 things. Comes back to your work rate. So not only obviously your work rate on the field, but your preparation as far as your pre-season, in-season training, so being rock hard and fit, being able to have the work rate to be able to get to as many contests as possible. And then obviously then the other thing is the positioning on the ground. So your reference point. So always trying, doing your best to stay reasonably in line with the ball, wherever that ball is, whether the ball's up the other end of the ground, just sort of reasonably, in a vertical line, give or take 30 odd metres either side. Just so you're referencing the ball into the right position. So the reason we're not in contest, 2 reasons: work rate or positioning in relation to the ball, or both.
Yeah.
So little checklist for yourself during a quarter. Instead of waiting to the Monday review with the coach and sitting down, why wasn't in many contests? Ask yourself the question during games or a quarter time. Why wasn't I in many contests? Okay, was it work rate? Or was it my position in relation to the ball, or was it both? And if you need help with that, get a coach to give you that guidance at quarter time or at half time. So they're your 2 filters.
Yep.
Always go back to that, and you can't go wrong. And then obviously when it comes to outside of that, obviously, yes, we know you've got to have talent and develop your skills, all those sorts of things. But number one, you got to be in a contest to win the ball, don't you?
Yeah. And the contest gets you going.
Absolutely.
I remember, as a winger, you're that far out of the contest. So sometimes you just need a fucking hit or a tackle just to feel like you're in the contest.
You're spot on, Tommy. And it's a great point you make, because especially in finals, and we've all had them, you can get the quarter time in games, you go, what the hell's just happened? Well, yeah, what the fuck's been going
haven't
on
touched
around me?
anything.
I haven't touched anything. I feel like I've been a passenger. I feel like I've been a spectator. And because you are anxious, everyone's anxious going into it, but the game can pass you by really quick. And all of a sudden you're not involved halfway through the second quarter and the game has passed you by and it's almost too late. So get involved physically. You're spot on. So get up to work, get up the field, get to work, get a tackle, help a teammate, get in some contests early. And that'll help you put the war paint on, won't it? Because you don't want to be coming off the ground a quarter time and you haven't got any dirt on you.
Oh, mate, that was my last game of footy. I reckon I fucking haven't done anything but run up and down the wing.
Well, that's right. I think Pav tells the great story about that Rossi Lyon got in he was spraying all the boys at half time. I'm not sure you're there, Tommy.
That was emergency again. It literally was emergency. It's on the Gold Coast, mate.
It's a ripper, we tell a story. Hey, have a look at your Pav, you're clean as a whistle. You haven't got any dirt on you at the halftime spray.
Fucking pristine.
And Pav had just gone and had a shower and put a new set of clothes on. He was best on ground at halftime,
Best on ground. And because it was so wet, you know how like at Gold Coast, how humid it gets? Your jersey's soaked, so he changed and put a freshie on and he just looked him down the eyes and barreled him.
I love the blokes that played under Ross Lyon. And a great mate of mine, Goose Maguire, and spent a fair bit of time with Nick Rewald, of course. But all the boys, they love an impression. A few of my old teammates do a good impression of Lee Matthews, but they love an impression of Matt Maguire, of Ross Lyon. And Goose Maguire was pretty handy at it as well. But they all love, all the ex-players, they love giving a bit of a Rossi, don't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of funny stories, fucking hell. There's some piss and that. I remember I think it was a Mad Monday. It was my first Mad Monday and we were all tied up. I was tied up to Hayden Crozier and Hayden Sleuth was tied up with someone and Fifey had written this notebook throughout the year on all the Rossisms and all the things he'd said. And they're and some of them are fucking like they're very funny. They're very ruthless, but very funny. And as you know, like sometimes you say shit, you don't articulate what you're saying. You try anyway. And I think it was halfway through the year, and he goes, "Boys, I don't give a fuck. I don't care if you're our best player, Matthew Pavlich, or you're fucking Hayden Sleuth. Just get it done, And then like we're all walking out going, "Fucking poor Sleuthy's on the bottom of the barrel, right?" And so they brought it up on Mad Monday, and then because I think the coach, well, Sleuthy's a funny bastard, and he goes, "Oh." Fucking it's just a poor rookie, trying to make his bread. And anyway, and I'll never forget all the coaches rocked up to Mad Monday, and they'd only rock up for an hour because it was more the players' day. And so Fifey read out. There was probably it's one of the best things I reckon Fifey's done was get this book out, and he's reading all these classics, and that was one of them. And then we're all drinking and laughing, and he goes, "Fucking skull, Sleuthy." So instead of confident, I think everyone was trying to make Ross skull, and he goes, "Sleuthy, fucking skull." That was a funny moment.
Isn't it funny when the coaches try and place the team into groups, And I think maybe, I'm not sure whether it's during our premiership run or as we were starting to slide, the lines, the league's just trying to give the boys a bit of a sharpen up, a bit of an awareness about where they are. And he goes, there's two groups of players, He said there's the Lions, just hungry and you're out there for the kill and you're a hunter. And then you're a wildebeest. And then the whiteboard goes up, and then there was the reveal. He had the two categories. He had the Lions, and everyone's scared him straight away. The Lions, they crossed, I was in the Lions section, and then there was the wildebeest. And we'd been going shithouse, and I think 3/4 of the boys in the wildebeest category. So you can imagine how flat the wildebeest were when they exited that meeting.
That would have been me in there for sure.
I think we had to go around and do a bit of damage control after that. Just apologise to a few of the wildebeest in the group.
The best part's the showers or like the locker room afterwards, because some bastard probably shouldn't be in the wildebeest. He's going, how the fuck am I in there?
Well, we had to shower separately. There was the wildebeest and the Lions. Pikey's, you're not allowed over in this shower.
I've heard Pikey's a pisser. I'd love to meet Pikey. Even Jono said Pikey's one of the best on Mad Monday.
You'd love to do a podcast with Pikey. Yeah, he's a beauty. 4-time premiership player. And you see all the photos, 2003 Deus. Everyone's got 3 fingers up and Pikey's got 4 up. He, of course, won with North Melbourne, and he got inducted in the Hall of Fame last week. The Lions, and the Lions Fitzroy's last best and fairest winner.
Oh, there you go.
So he was he was an absolute he was an absolute beauty, and he was a fantastic player. 200 odd games, life member of the Lions, and when he was so nervous on meeting Lee Matthews and Graham Allen, who was the footy boss, that he wanted to make a good impression because I think he'd been sacked by North Melbourne there at the end of the 2000 season. And so Lee Matthews and Gubby Allen reached out to him and said, we want to have a meeting with you in Melbourne. It was in the middle of summer, or early summer. And so he met at a hotel in the city somewhere, and apparently it was 37 degrees. Well, Pikey's turned up in a suit. Like the only time he's ever wore a suit. And he's sitting there in the waiting area, no air conditioning. Pikey's sweating his ass off. He's waiting there, mate. The boys are half an hour late. Lee and Gubby, half an hour late. They're ringing going, Pikey, where the fuck are you? Pikey's gone to the wrong hotel. So he turns up in the suit. There's Lee and Pikey sitting there in shorts and thongs.
You can tell he's desperate for a spot on the list.
Desperate for a spot. So Lee knew he had a hungry football there. And he was hungry all right. He won 3 flags.
Yeah, that's a great story. Do you guys get into him to that day about the suit?
Unbelievable. And the greatest negotiator of all time, because end of 2004, we weren't sure whether he wasn't sure whether he'd get another contract, and we were disappointed we lost that flag. And the Sunday night after the grand final, he got in deep, heavy discussions with the CEO at the time, Michael Bowes, and the negotiations kept going further and further into the night, obviously as the boys having a few more beers, and Pikey wasn't making any headway with this negotiation, so he thought, fuck it, I've had enough of this. So he went to the toilet, came back, and walked straight back to the bar where Michael Bowes is standing and headbutted the CEO. And it was a big story at the time. Word got out. Pikey's headbutted the CEO. Fucking unbelievable. Unbelievable. He got a new contract. So if you want a negotiation, send Pikey in for you.
Fucking hell. We consider all day, Brownie. I'll tell you what. Mate, before we round up and give you some prizes for coming on the podcast, mate, celebrations, grand finals, 01, 02, 03. Talk to me about some of the best celebrations and memories of that period before we close out, because I know you've got a run here. Just so everyone knows, we're shooting this prelim week, and Brown Dog's got about 500 appearances after this, so he's got to run. But I just want to know a little bit more about your celebrations, because like Pikey there's some great characters and some great stories, no doubt.
Yeah, no, it was so much fun. 2001, Ansett went bust. The week of grand final, I think. So we had to get a private charter down for the grand final. And so obviously private charter down, there's not a lot of festivities on the plane down, but when you've won the flag, going home is fair to say. So Pikey was blowing up. He was in charge of the bus and the drive. Back on the Sunday, went to Brunswick Street Oval. There was a big, huge crowd of a lot of old Fitzroy supporters there to send us off and out to the airport, and desperate for a beer. Most of the boys hadn't been to bed, and we walked onto the private charter, and they said, no, there'll be no beers on the plane, all that sort of stuff. We walked on the plane, we're a little bit flat, and I said to the girls, no beers in the plane. And she said, what do you mean no beers? She opened up the door in the galley, and there was about a dozen slabs of VB just sitting there waiting for us to go. So those celebrations on the plane home was so much fun because it was just us. And that first year, 2001, the pilot actually did a circle of the Gabba because the fans were waiting for us. He announced it on the PA and said, I'm going to fly down a bit lower and closer to the Gabba on entry to the Brisbane airport, and he did a full circle of the Gabba.
Awesome.
And then we landed at Brisbane airport, had the fire truck spraying the water over us. So you go, geez, this is a big thing. It's pretty cool for a non-football town. So that was pretty special. And then, Craig McRae, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this.
This is exactly what Jono said. He goes, he doesn't like us bringing up, but he sounds like the ultimate team man and he was the organiser of all the events.
He was the organiser, and he was he used to get the prayer at the front of this pub down one of the main roads. He used to he'd come out and sit in the car, and he'd jump in the car or maybe jump on the bus and come flying past with the Premiership Cup going past the pub, and the boys would give him a roar. And he just is such a special person, a great organiser, a great team man, a great connector, and that's why Collingwood have, Collingwood have got the right man in charge there and the right man to negotiate final series, that's for sure. So many great memories. Most of them I can't really talk about, but
exactly right.
It was just so much fun.
That's brilliant, mate. Oh, it's awesome. I love the fact you're sharing them, and like you said, even now I wish we had drone footage of that because we probably didn't have it back then. But just the drone footage of the plane,
the camera phones, it would have been great. Wouldn't it? You think all those.
Although not having the cameras, you just remember these things. People looking down and probably not enjoying the moment so much. You boys would have really enjoyed, lapped it right up. So different era.
Yeah, it was. It was. Just so much fun. We used to always have we get together on the Sunday night in the club rooms, and you know, the boys. Yeah, it was just a hell of a lot of fun. I remember. I think one of the years, old Murray Johnson, our old trainer. He used to swear by Condy's crystals and these Condy's crystals are these things that you put in the water and you soak your feet in it so you wouldn't get blisters. And these Condy's crystals used to be there in the showers and you put your feet in them, stop the blisters. It might have been no I was told, but we're obviously celebrating on the Sunday night and the boys are getting a bit carried away. A few of the boys are in the spa. So obviously inevitably one of the boys decided to get the big tub of Condy's crystals and throw it into the spa over the boys. So it's fair to say they weren't happy, mate, because this fucking spa was bright purple. So they couldn't I don't think they could get the stain out of the spa. But
you do what you want when you win a flag. You don't
do what you want when you win a flag. Exactly right. No, there was so many good memories, that's for sure.
Oh, it's brilliant, mate. It's brilliant. Now, mate, you come on the potty. We got to send you home with some prizes after all these classics. And our friends at Milwaukee Tools, they're amazing support of the podcast, and we can't thank them enough, mate. And it's great timing because they've just released
battery mowers.
Yeah, mate, the brand new lawnmower, the battery mower. This one's optimized steel deck design, push start, and it's got reaches full throttle in under a second, and comes with an 8 amp starter pack to get you started, mate. So you'll be going home with this lawnmower. I'll send you that one in the mail. And you're up in the Gold Coast, aren't you? So we have to send that. Well, you got houses fucking everywhere.
Got much. I got my father-in-law to do the mowing, so
there you go. We'll send it his joint.
He can do it at all hours of the night too.
Yeah, there you go.
Not very loud. How good.
Are you handy on the tools?
I'm not bad, but the father-in-law, he just loves doing the work around home, so I let him go.
There you go.
It makes him feel useful.
Yeah.
It makes him feel useful.
There you go.
But I just got to make sure he can't do it. Everything's got to be done before 4 o'clock because he pours that first red wine at 4 o'clock.
Oh, does he every day? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Work hard, then just enjoy a couple of quiet ones afterwards. Red wine, though, I pull up dog shit on red wine. I'm not a big red wine man. I do love it, but once I have more than 3 or 4, the next day,
it does get you a little bit, but the father-in-law swears by it. He was diagnosed with stage 5 prostate cancer 5 years ago. He thought he was gone, but tell you what, he swears by his bottle of red every night. And the last scan he had, he went there and they said, we can hardly see it.
Oh, that's amazing.
The doctor said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. He said, well, I'll keep doing that bottle of red every night.
We'll have to share what bottle that is. That's great to hear, by the way.
It's a $6 bottle called Parsons Paddock from the bottle shop. It's like rocket fuel.
Well, whatever's in there, he needs to share that secret. That's brilliant. Right. I'm glad to hear he's going well. So, mate, with the Milwaukee Tools handiest moment, we always think about it. What's Big Brown Dog's handiest moment? When you think about all the moments you've had on the footy field, what's the handiest? What's the one that comes, front of mind? If your kids ever talk about, hey, Dad, you said you went all right. Have you got anything to show us? What's the highlight reel or the handiest moment that you can think of here, brought to you by our friends Milwaukee Tools?
The handiest moment, and I hope he's a big listener. I'm sure he's a big listener of the podcast, is great mates with Johnny Barker. He's a great man. I love running into Johnny from time to time, but he hates when I mention this. Any time we do something, it was the 2002 Mark of the Year. And I know you can get footage of this because I always stir Johnny up. The Johnny was on me that day, and he made a bit of a business decision when I was going back with the flight of the ball. So that was my 50th game, actually. And fortunate enough, that's given me plenty of highlights over the journey. I was able to take the Mark of the Year in 2002. So that one's just for you, Johnny, just to rub in a little bit more.
He will hate that. I know when we met at Brown Dogs here, I think I've even got the link on my phone. You show this to Johnny. He's a really good fella as well. We'll make sure we clip that one up. Yeah, we'll clip that one up. And a very good footballer as well.
Fitzroy Hawthorn, and he played in one other, and he's obviously a Carlton coach here, a caretaker coach at Carlton.
How many times have you let him know you took Mark of the Year on him?
So he asked me to tee up a set of golf clubs with TaylorMade the other day, so bugger it, Johnny. I can give you a mention. I'll give you a mention for the Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Oh, there you go. Well, you're getting the lawnmower, mate. That's coming to you and the old father-in-law, he'll be on the tools and he'll be drinking another bit of rocket fuel, $6 rocket fuel.
That's right. Billy Boy will be very happy with the Milwaukee.
That's very good. And mate, our friends from RIXX Eyewear, me brand, me sunglass brand, we as we said, spring carnival's coming up. Your birthday's coming up. You got to make sure you're looking sharp.
Oh yeah.
So I've got you the Melrose here, the champagne. These are the brand spankers. One of my favourite frames. These named them after Melrose Avenue in Los Angeles. There. Yes. Just the champagne with the brown lens for the brown dog. So they're coming to you, mate. So chuck these on. I've got a question for you. You've already mentioned Pikey, so I'd imagine that they're probably coming. That's probably the bloke you're going to mention again. But
there we go.
RIXX on tour. Anyone out there that want to look like Brown Dog, rixeyewear.com.au. Use the discount code ACES. Brownie's got the champagne on with the brown polarized lenses. Yeah, they're one of my favourites. They're the classics. They've been around since the start, which we love. Now, mate, if while you got them on, I love listening to the story when you got them on. What would be the two when we talk about RIXX on tour? You finished the season of footy. You've done it. You still got a lot of mates in the game. But who are two blokes you'd love to go on tour with and take the RIXXies? And what location would you go?
Oh, geez. I think definitely Timmy Notting. Yeah, old mate, the Poss. He was one of the greatest performers on footy trips. Don't worry about that. Some people talk about winning 3 Brownlow medals. Well, Possum's won 3 Download medals.
The Download, I've never heard that. That's outstanding.
He was one of the great operators. So much fun to be on tour with Possum. He just keep going. Talk about failure cannot cope with perseverance. That was Tim Notting to a T. When it came to being at the bar, you knew the great man was always there. So he was a lot of fun. And another one, obviously, Pikey was good fun to be on. Yeah, don't worry about that. So, yeah, there's a couple there. The Poss was always there. And Justin Lepwich was another good operator. Yep. Frank the Tank, is his nickname. I'm not sure he loves the nickname, but Frank the Tank, of course, the old school character of Will Ferrell. And it was his alter ego after a couple of beers. Yes. And Leper had the older ego after a couple of beers as well. So, they're 2 or 3 of the great operators.
That's great. And what location are you going with the boys, with the RIXXies on? What's one of the
favourite footy trip? Favourite location was New Orleans. 2003 premiership, we all went to New Orleans and, geez, we had some fun. It was sensational. Went to the New Orleans Superdome where the New Orleans Saints play. Bought myself a beautiful gift, a helmet, and I thought, this is a beautiful helmet. And NFL, I thought, I'd take that back. It was New Orleans Saints helmets. I needed something of significance from the trip, of course. So I'm going to take this all the way back to Australia. And I thought, geez, it's pretty heavy. As I was about to depart the taxi, about to walk into the bar and make me big entry, and I go to pull it out of the box and go in front of all the boys and put this helmet on, I didn't realise it was a garden sprinkler. No. It was full of concrete, and it was a garden sprinkler. The first man I see, Craig McRae, said, "Big fella, you're not putting that on your head." So anyway, it was a.
So you're going to go to the game with the helmet on?
I was going to go to the game with this bloody helmet on. It was a garden sprinkler. So anyway, it was fair to say I was flat driving all the way back to the New Orleans Superdome to hand back the garden sprinkler and get a proper helmet. But New Orleans.
Who do you support in the NFL?
I'm an Oakland Raiders man. Las Vegas Raiders man.
Well, gee, you going to the Super Bowl this year?
No, I'm not because half the world's going.
Yeah, there's prices.
Hard to get a ticket, I would have thought.
Yeah, and if you do get one, it's a mortgage. It's a loan.
Well, and I don't think I could ever live up to – we talked our way into the Fox Super Box at the Super Bowl 2 years ago at what's the LA stadium? It was SoFi Stadium.
SoFi, yeah.
Just amazing. We had tickets up in the nose bleachers and somehow just talked our way into the corporate area. Said, well, guests from Fox and we're supposed to be, guests from Australia, and we managed to talk our way in. And again, I said to the mates there, we're going to have to be quick here, going to have to talk our way in. As we got up to the suit box, we went to Fox, and the bloke answered the door. I said, look, g'day, I'm Jonathan Brown. I'm from Australia. I work for Fox, and I used to play AFL. And a mate leans over, straight over the top. He had the 2002 Mark of the Year loaded up on his phone. He goes, look, see, he used to play. And the head of Fox was watching the mark. He goes, wow, that's amazing. You guys come and enjoy the hospitality.
That is elite.
So we enjoyed the whole day in the Fox suit box on centre field.
You got to drop the name. You got to drop the highlights sometimes, don't you?
Exactly right. So I certainly I left my humility at the door that day. It's fair to say. We had one of the greatest days ever. So I'm a bit reluctant to go to another Super Bowl because I don't think I can ever live up to that.
No, I know. And it was a good game as well. That's awesome, mate. Yeah. Well, mate, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Well, you're always welcome to come back on here, Brownie. And just thanks so much for the stories, mate. Look forward to to our next beer and all the best for the next couple of weeks, mate.
Good on you, Tommy. All the best, mate.
One more time because I really mean it. I just want to say a massive thank you for all the support you continue to give us at the Ausmerican Aces. If you want to further support us, make sure you like and subscribe, hit the follow button so you can keep up to date with all our exciting shows and announcements. Righto, now it's time to give our sponsors a massive plug. Lead the charge with Milwaukee. Performance, power, precision, no petrol hassles. Learn more at milwaukeetool.com.au. Milwaukee, nothing but heavy duty. Aces, I know I always talk about the RIXXs, but I got to offer you the discount again. In case you've forgotten or in case you're sleeping under a rock, we have a special discount code for everyone that listens to this podcast or watch the podcast. It's ACES. Head online to rixeyewear.com.au and use the discount code ACES and you'll get 20% off. That's right, 20% off, 1/5 at checkout and free express shipping. So head online, rixeyewear.com.au and check it out.